An attractive trans girl walks into your bar, sits right next to you, makes eye contact, and smiles. Your heart pounds in your chest and all sorts of thoughts race through your mind. But you've never talked to a trans woman before. How do you start? What do you even say? This is where some make some common mistakes that can downright kill the mood. I'm talking about 6 self-sabotaging openers that tend to make us unreceptive. And I mean every trans girl knows all too well. Hopefully, you can avoid falling into some of these common pitfalls. And if you happen to be one of those who've already made some of these mistakes, don't be too hard on yourself. You are forgiven for thy sins. We learn and carry on. Most people who are into trans girls perceive us to be more open to sexual matters than the average person. And some of us might be, some of us might not. Regardless, this often translates into people hitting us up with explicit openers from the get-go, immediately delving into peculiars about the kind of sex they're into or the things they like us to do to them or them to us. All within the first few moments of meeting us. You have no idea how common of an occurrence this is. It feels like witnessing a sort of conversational premature ejaculation unfold before you, and it also leaves us feeling disappointed. It is therefore best practice to pace yourself. No matter how excited you might get, aim to build an emotional bond with us. And more importantly, to see if there is sexual compatibility to begin with. I made a video about it here. Start by conversing about something fun, light, or interesting. Whatever it is that you do, be yourself. Show us you. As long as you make us comfortable and at ease with you, should there be chemistry, we'll play ball. Sometimes people who find trans girls particularly attractive pin their own questions or insecurities about their own sexuality onto us. Are you gay for liking us? Are you straight for liking us? Are you straight for liking us? Are you gay for liking us? Does this make you a lesbian? Maybe you're heteroflexible, homoflexible, bisexual, pansexual, queer, evolving, fluctuating, questioning, gynophilic, homocurious, heterocurious, this, and that. I've heard so many sexual orientation terms trying to over-explain a very simple phenomenon that you find us attractive. It doesn't need to be complicated. Involving us with your inner dilemmas can easily distance us from you, especially if what you perceive that would make you collides with our gender identity. In terms of raw sexual attraction, trans people can exist everywhere and nowhere at the same time. We can pull people from every walk of orientation, sexuality, and or gender, and never limited to just only one. It's part of our charm, I suppose. Think of us as a wild card. What that would make you, then, is solely up to you and about you, so try not to project it onto us. Some people interested in us feel like they must let us know that we're trans, especially if they meet us in person. There's no need to do that. This can be an abrasive thing for us to hear in public from someone we barely know, and usually will leave us with a jarring first impression of you. Most of us do have a need to feel safe about you knowing. However, there are plenty of better ways of addressing this without spooking us. Being spooked is a trans term for suddenly being outed. Demonstrating that you have an overall non-judgmental attitude, meeting us in LGBTQ-friendly spaces, or having diverse array of friends are great social proofs that alleviates some of these worries for us. As we get to know you, we'll either disclose to you that we are trans, or it will eventually surface. Whichever comes first, best thing I can say is to not make it a big deal. Believe me, it'll mean a lot to us to see that you're unfazed by it. Trans girls, by virtue of being ourselves, have already braved most of the hardships, stigma, and disadvantages that some cultures mount against us. Therefore, if you step up to us with the intent to be discreet, from our perspective, you'd be coming from a place of weakness. And we will likely view you in unfavorable light. While I perfectly understand that some of you might not be in a position to be open about your attraction towards trans people, it still doesn't change how much of a turn-off it can be for us. We've already risked it all on the high-stakes poker table of life, with all our chips bare, proudly laid out. And some want to come sit at our table with their heads down, their identity shrouded, no auntie, no chips, nothing to put up, and still get to play with us? How is that fair? No risk, no reward. If it's still just not possible for you to be open about it for whatever reason, I have some good news and some bad news for you. Some of us might still give you a shot should you balance things out with some sort of compensation. Shower us with gifts, money, and exuberance. This is the price of discreetness that some of us might work with, especially those of us in a place of need or those who simply find pleasure in being appreciated in such ways. The bad news is that your dynamic will now be dependent on that form of compensation, that flow of sugar. But at least you'd be supporting the thing that you'd love to see more of in this world, even if you can't be open about it at this time, which puts you leagues above those who stay in the shadows, seeped in guilt and shame, offer nothing, and somehow have the audacity to expect a connection. A common subject we often hear pretty early from potential suitors is whether they've been with a trans person before or not. Why even mention it? This information is often willingly volunteered without us even asking. While you might think you'd be giving us a fair disclaimer or illustrating that you have experience to make us feel more comfortable, in reality, it can come across as something suspicious to bring up. For example, if you tell us you've never been with a trans person before, it might make us feel like, there's going to be plenty of first-timer awkwardness to come. Or on the other hand, if you tell us you've been with a trans person before, we might feel like, we're going to be another notch on the belt. Or worse, we're dating the discards of another trans girl. Not that that's the case, but that's where our mind might go if you disclose such things so readily. So, don't feel compelled or eager to volunteer your trans body count. Unless we ask, of course, then we're ready to hear it. Some might get a little nervous when they meet a trans girl or try to demonstrate that they're hip with us, or perhaps out of pure curiosity, chat us up with a focus on trans topics. This doesn't necessarily kill attraction or anything, but it might slowly get you friend-zoned. Don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating to never talk about trans topics with us, but do keep in mind that trans topics are rarely a novel or exciting thing for us to delve into. On top of that, talking about some trans issues, especially socio-political ones, even with the best of intentions, can inevitably stir up raw emotions in some of us. You're not here for a trans conference. You're here because you want to connect with us. So aim for that, instead of deferring to overarching trans topics. All in all, flirting with trans girls isn't all that difficult. Should you avoid some of the aforementioned pitfalls, you might even find us easier to talk to, connect, and get along with than most non-trans women. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more, like and subscribe. I am Lilith Lahdur, and these have been some of my musings.